Mr. Speaker. I will be splitting my time with the member from Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. The world as we see it today is a violent place. We have entered a new stage in great power competition, where those great powers seek to maximize their influence on a global scale. The once great superpower of the United States is now in a strategic competition with China and, to a much lesser extent, Russia. We have seen the traditional great powers that supported the rules-based world order, France, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Japan, under pressure from both Russia and China and regional rogue states like North Korea and Iran. I can remember when people said that there would never again be a war in Europe after the end of the Cold War. It was wishful thinking, Mr. Speaker. No sooner had people uttered those words than we saw the Yugoslav Civil War, Kosovo, the Georgian War, the Azerbaijan-Armenian War, the Russian seizure of Crimea, the Donbass, and now the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Today, we are now witnessing the largest ground war we have seen in Europe since World War II. Russia was once a superpower and is now a great power in slow decline. It is a Eurasian land power with residual air and sea capabilities and has the world's largest nuclear arsenal. Russia has successfully developed hypersonic cruise and ballistic missiles geared to defeat Western missile defenses and weapons geared to destroy American port cities and flood them with radiation. The goal of its government and Vladimir Putin is to put the old Russian Empire back together with the Soviet Empire's borders. The threats of a new USSR threatens the Balkan states, and Poland directly. In the last month, we've seen a Russian army of over 200,000 men invade Ukraine in a ghastly war that has created millions of refugees and tens of thousands of casualties with no end in sight. We are seeing evidence of a number of potential war crimes in the path of the Russian invasion and their retreat in the north of Ukraine. The People's Republic of China is a superpower on the rise. Time will tell the outcome of its strategic competition with the U.S. and its allies. It is important to note that the only successful drives for power between great powers and the international system was that of the transfer of power between the United Kingdom and the United States in 1945. It is very unlikely that we will see a peaceful transition of power this time around. China has the world's largest army, and it is well equipped. China now has the world's largest navy. It's a blue water navy with frigates, destroyers, cruisers, and amphibious ships, and their newest variants of those warships is as capable as their Western equivalent. China has 2 aircraft carriers and a 3rd under construction. Their first 2 aircraft carriers are of limited capability, but the 3rd, currently undergoing construction, is as large as a Nimitz-class U.S. aircraft carrier. China maintains a large air force and has started to produce 5th-generation fighter aircraft similar to the F-35. While China's strategic deterrent remains small, it is geared for deterrence, and there are signs that China has recently constructed 500 new silos to house new missiles. In the next few years, China could have one of the largest arsenals of nuclear weapons. China has also developed hypersonic cruise and ballistic missiles, anti-ship ballistic missiles, and air-launched ballistic missiles. It maintains one of the largest missile inventories in the world, if not the largest. Many are dual purpose with either nuclear or conventional warheads geared to threaten and, if necessary, overwhelm and destroy their neighbors, while their strategic deterrent prevents the U.S. intervening on their behalf. We have watched China creep into the territory of their neighbors in the South China Sea, create artificial militarized islands, and seize the possessions of others. We have seen China threaten India, seize land that has been Indian territory since the 1940s, and set up communities on the territories of Bhutan and Nepal. It is engaged in genocide against the Uyghur people. This past summer, China conducted a test of a fractional orbit bombardment system where it launched an intercontinental ballistic missile to the south. The rocket popped out over South America, went into a fractional orbit, and flew north of the North Pole. This is especially concerning as it's very hard to detect, and North America's missile defense and an early warning system faces north and no coverage to the south. Rogue states like North Korea are building one of the largest inventories of missiles in the world. They are developing nuclear weapons, and we may see a North Korean nuclear test in the very near future. Their intercontinental ballistic missiles are believed to be able to reach just west of Ottawa, and they too are experimenting with hypersonic weapons. The North Koreans are close to developing an effective submarine-launched ballistic missile, and they have one of the world's largest armies. The opacity of North Korean decision-making and the rationality of its leadership make it a threat to its neighbors and North America in general. Iran, the most powerful country in the Middle East, is on the verge of developing nuclear weapons. They have missiles for their deployment and use a network of about 22 proxy militias to terrorize their neighbors and Israel. Iranian militias are active in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and much of the Middle East, including the Palestinian General Authority. Maybe Canadians watching are wondering, well, what has all this got to do with Canada? And maybe up until a month ago, they thought the same about Ukraine. But I'm here to tell them and this House that the world is an unsafe place, and there is evil in our midst. The best way to avoid war is to prepare for it. The only way to deter an opponent is by being strong and being determined. That is why we are members of NATO, NORAD, and the Five Eyes. Neutrality is not really an option for Canada, and we cannot take our own security for granted anymore. We can no longer assume that others will look out for Canada unless Canada pays our fair share and looks out for itself. Today's opposition motion before this House ahead of the coming budget is to say to this government that it is time to pay up and purchase the equipment we need for the men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces. Enough of the backslapping platitudes and word salads. We must live up to our shared NATO commitment of spending 2% of GDP on defense. The Canadian forces have been allowed to decline by this government over the past 7 years. We are on the precipice and we are standing into danger. The government has a choice to increase spending to meet the NATO required 2% or not. I know the Liberals' political dance partners in the NDP believe that 2% is an arbitrary number. But in fact, that is the number the Government of Canada signed up for in the 2014 Wales NATO Summit Declaration. Right now, Mr. Speaker, the government could do itself and Canadians a big favour and sign the contract with a firm delivery schedule for F-35. The government knows only too well that there are no negotiations, no refinement of numbers. As a consortium member, we get the F-35 at the exact same price as the United States. It's not going to be any cheaper. There are no negotiations. It's fixed. It's fixed by the fiscal year we buy them. So sign the deal, get on with it. We also need Arctic icebreakers, and we need them now. Russia has 40 Arctic icebreakers, 20 nuclear, 20 conventional, a string of bases across the north, and a specialized and northern brigade. The Russian North Sea Fleet is its main naval strike force and home of the bulk of its strategic missile-carrying submarine fleet. It is from the north that Russian bombers cross the Arctic Ocean and approach North America, and where they conduct fire drills from what are called fireboxes off our air defense zones. What does Canada have in the north? Not very much on a permanent basis, save our Rangers, a reserve company, and Alert. F-35 is a start. Arctic icebreakers is a start. But we need new submarines that can go under the ice and stay under the ice, and that could be nuclear-powered submarines. We need surface warships, and we need them soon. We need to cut steel on an off-the-shelf design that is proven. We need to expand our Ranger program, rebuild our Army. Canada needs to replenish its war stocks of modern anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles and provide the same to Ukraine in military aid. This government's sole accomplishment on the defense file today is buying used, obsolete Australian fighter planes that we didn't need. When Prime Minister Harper's government was in power, Canada bought C-17, C-130Js, Leopard 2 main battle tanks, LAV armoured fighting vehicles and Chinook helicopters. Enough is enough. Surely the men and women of the Canadian Forces deserve the best equipment, and these are dangerous jobs, Mr. Speaker. These are country's best citizens, our most selfless citizens. Otherwise, the verdict of history on this Trudeau government is going to be both too little and too late. Thank you.
Questions et commentaires. Questions and comments. L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for her speech. Very clearly, we need extra investments in our armed forces. 2% is a target through an international agreement with NATO. That's reasonable. However, we have doubts on the way we procure and sometimes waste public money on procurement. If we think about the saga of the fighters that they cancelled in 2015, then it wasn't going to be bought. Now they're going to be bought. What about submarines? It's ridiculous to buy 4 old submarines, one of which burst into flames. If we had only bought one, then perhaps we would have had enough money to fix it and make it usable. So is there a way for us to better manage public funds when it comes to procurement, adopting a budget to depoliticize the purchasing process, allowing experts to do their job rather than using it as a political job?
Good. White Rock.
I want to thank my friend for his question, and I agree with my honourable friend on all his points, because there is a lot of waste in procurement. It is over-politicized with this government. It needs to be streamlined. We streamlined the procurement process when we were in Afghanistan. Canada showed it can be done. And once we withdrew, it became more complicated all over again. $865 million and another $1 billion on used aircraft out of Australia has been spent in the last 7 years with this Liberal government, only to get us back to the F-35s, which were the best choice all along for our needs here in Canada.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague across the way for her speech. According to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, for Canada to meet that 2% of NATO spending that the Conservatives are calling for, we would have to spend an additional $54 to $56 billion annually on defence, which is approximately double what we spend now. Can the member clarify which government programs they would cut in order to justify that increase in spending?
The Honourable Member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, I thank my friend for her question and working alongside her on the Defence Committee, where we usually get along very well. The 2% is a pledge we made. We should meet our commitment. We should be moving towards it, and we should meet it. We have already semi-committed to the F-35s, although the minister has said in this House that they're still working on it, and the other minister said it's a done deal. So I'm a little confused on that file. But what I do know is we are in desperate need, and my friend knows this as well, being in Defence Committee. We're understaffed, we're under-equipped, and we've got to fix it now.
Questions et commentaires, questions and comments. L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood, St James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for her excellent speech. I want to ask her about the Cormorant helicopter fleet, because that's another category where the government has been dragging its feet. They initially budgeted to upgrade and repair the 14 helicopters back in 2017, but they seriously under-budgeted for that project. Those helicopters are essential for our air and sea rescue operations, and I'm wondering if my honourable colleague could comment on this further dragging of feet by the Liberal government.
The Honourable Member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, I thank my colleague for his question, and of course that's kind of the name of the game, dragging their feet when it comes to procurement and when it comes to paying attention to what we need in search and rescue, in our military. Right now we have a retention and recruitment problem, and yet we're offering new recruits old equipment that literally may not work, and equipment that might put their lives in danger. One of the best tools for recruitment and retention is to get the tools we need. Our SAR personnel are the best in the world, and they deserve the best equipment.
Reprise du débat. The honourable député.
The honourable member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Cher.